Okay, let's get into this. We're doing a deep dive today into, well, some really significant findings. They come from a brand new report.
Yeah, and this report is from the Multilateral Sanctions Monitoring Team, MSMT. It's an initiative from 11 UN member nations.
Right, 11 nations.
And it's worth remembering, why this team exists. They basically stepped in after Russia used its veto power at the Security Council.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they disbanded the previous UN panel, the one specifically monitoring North Korea's sanctions. So this new team is trying to continue that work.
Got it. So carrying the torch.
Yeah.
And their main finding, it lays out the extent of North Korea's military help to Russia. Pretty stark detail, actually.
Over the past year, specifically looking at what Pyongyang sent to Moscow for the war in Ukraine.
And the report uses some strong language about it, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It says this support is helping Russia, and I quote, terrorize Ukraine's population and destroy civilian infrastructure. Doesn't mince words.
Okay, so our mission here is to really unpack what this report is saying. We need to understand the scale of the aid, how much, and what North Korea is getting back.
Exactly. And then what are the bigger implications? What does this whole relationship look like based on the report?
And it seems like they've gathered a lot of evidence.
It appears so. They're pulling together intelligence findings from those 11 countries, but also backing it up with data from open source groups.
Like who?
Well, places like the Open Source Center and others like Conflict Armament Research that, track specific components found in weapons debris or analyze satellite images, things like that.
Okay, so combining national intelligence with sort of publicly verifiable data and technical analysis, that sounds quite robust.
It aims to be, yeah.
And the scale the report alleges. It's kind of mind-boggling. It claims North Korea sent, as many as 9 million rounds of artillery and ammunition.
9 million rounds just in 2024.
That's huge.
Yeah.
In the context of Ukraine, that level of supply must make a significant difference, right?
Yeah.
Especially if Russia faced shortages.
Absolutely. It allows them to keep up that sustained bombardment. It's a massive amount of firepower.
And it wasn't only ammo. The report talks about troop transfers, too.
That's right. It alleges over 11,000 North Korean troops were sent last year.
11,000.
Plus another 3,000 just in the first few months of this year.
We've definitely heard talk about North Korean soldiers, but those numbers, they put a real scale on it. So beyond people and bullets, what other hardware does the report list?
Well, it mentions things like rocket launchers, various vehicles for transport and logistics, self-propelled guns.
Which are like mobile artillery.
Exactly. Artillery on a vehicle chassis, and just other forms of heavy artillery, too. It's quite a comprehensive package.
And this connects back to that strong language you mentioned, the terrorizing civilians bit. What about missiles?
Yes, that's a really critical piece. The report cites participating states claiming North Korea sent at least 100 ballistic missiles.
100 ballistic missiles. And the report says where these were used.
It does. It states these missiles were subsequently launched into Ukraine to destroy civilian infrastructure and terrorize populated areas such as Kyiv and Zaporizhia.
So it's drawing a direct line there. Pyongyang's shipments directly enabled Moscow to ramp up attacks on Ukrainian cities, hitting civilian targets.
That's the connection the report makes, yes. It's not just about the numbers, but the actual impact of that aid.
Which naturally brings us to the other side. What's North Korea getting out of this? It's not just one-way traffic, is it?
No, definitely not presented that way. The report talks about reciprocal support from Russia to North Korea.
Okay, like what? What kind of support?
It seems quite significant, not just, say, cash. The report details valuable military items and, importantly, technologies.
Such as?
Things like air defense equipment, anti-aircraft missiles, electronic warfare systems.
EW systems. Crucial for jamming and disruption.
Very crucial. And also large amounts of refined oil, which is vital for North Korea given the sanctions.
And there was one detail that really jumped out about missile data.
Yes. Moscow providing data feedback on Pyongyang's own ballistic missiles.
That sounds incredibly valuable for that.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. They launch a missile, Russia uses it in combat, and then Russia tells them how it performed. That lets North Korea improve accuracy, guidance, all the technical stuff.
So real-world combat data to fine-tune their own missile program.
Exactly. Access to that kind of feedback loop from a major power like Russia, that could really accelerate their development in ways that are otherwise very difficult.
So what we have here, according to this report, is this large-scale swap of military goods, technology, and data. And the report alleges both sides are breaking UN arms embargoes. and using networks to dodge sanctions.
That's the clear finding, yes. It asserts both Russia and North Korea are doing this in direct violation of international law and existing sanctions.
And they expect it to continue.
Based on the evidence gathered, the report suggests this cooperation isn't stopping anytime soon. It's likely ongoing.
Which lines up with concerns we've heard from Western governments. The U.S. warning about potential sharing of advanced space tech.
Right. That Russia might give North Korea satellite technology in return for the continued flow of weapons to Ukraine.
Now, both Moscow and Pyongyang officially deny the arms transfers, don't they?
They do deny Pyongyang is supplying arms, yes, despite what the report characterizes as overwhelming evidence. But we have seen some public acknowledgments of cooperation.
Like what?
Well, President Putin himself acknowledged back in April that North Korean soldiers fought in Russia's Kursk region.
And North Korea confirmed troops were there around the same time.
Correct. Although, interestingly, some Ukrainian officials had suggested those troops were actually on the front lines much earlier, maybe November, and had pulled back by January after taking heavy losses.
So still some fog around the exact details, even with confirmations.
It highlights how complex and sometimes opaque this is, even as reports like this try to piece together the facts.
And this whole partnership, it became more formal recently, too. They signed that big defense pact last year.
Yes, a landmark pact, pledging immediate military assistance using all available means if either one is attacked. That's a major commitment.
And Putin's warning tied to it, threatening to arm Pyongyang if the West keeps arming Ukraine.
Exactly. Which adds another layer, especially now that Kyiv has fewer restrictions on using long-range Western missiles inside Russia. It raises the stakes.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the core points from this deep dive into the report. It shows a really significant flow of weapons, ammo, even troops, from North Korea to Russia.
Yeah, boosting Moscow's war effort in Ukraine considerably.
And in return, Russia is reportedly giving North Korea valuable military tech air defense EW systems, oil.
And that critical missile performance data, helping North Korea advance its own weapons programs, which are subject to sanctions.
And the report's bottom line, both nations are violating UN embargoes, dodging sanctions, and this cooperation looks set to continue. You know, understanding the details in reports like this, it really helps you see how these global conflicts aren't isolated. They're shaped by these intricate shifting alliances.
And how nations support each other, sometimes completely outside established international rules. It shows how events on one battlefield can spark cooperation and tech transfer elsewhere, especially among states challenging the current order.
Right. So that leaves us with something for you, the listener, to mull over. We have this report detailing really substantial existing military links and support between North Korea and Russia.
And then you have that recent defense pact, that promise of immediate military aid if either is attacked.
So the thought to consider is, given everything this report suggests about how closely they're already cooperating militarily, what questions does that raise about future global stability if that mutual defense pact is ever actually invoked, if it's ever truly tested?